Future Box. I think it's a little too clunky right now. From what I can tell, Future Box is just so lackluster. It's so clunky. There are so many different energy types and things that you have to worry about that it just seems better playing like a turbo list of, like, just playing Lost Box or something like that. So I think I'm going to put it in probably low C, because it still has like some notable performance finishes in Japan.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's up guys, PTCGL here, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today guys, we're going to be looking at a deck that I severely underestimated when I made my tier list video last week, and that was Iron Crown EX Future Box. This deck, I originally ranked it in C tier, as you saw in the, kind of like the intro skit for this video. And that was probably one of the dumbest mistakes I've ever made when making a tier list, because this deck is actually so broken. I think it is one of the best decks in the format, and it is definitely an A tier deck in my opinion. And that is because this deck is so aggressive, it can hit really hard really fast, and it can just really speed up the game so fast to where your opponent, it makes it almost impossible for your opponent to win. So let's kind of just break this all down and explain why I think it's really good. So first off, we have the brand new Iron Crown EX from Temporal Forces with the Cobalt Command ability. Now this is the biggest part about Iron Crown. We don't really care about its typing or its attack or anything like that. It is purely just here for its ability in this deck. And the ability Cobalt Command reads that attacks used by your future Pokemon, except by any Iron Crown EX, do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, before applying weakness and resistance. Now this matters because Cobalt Command can stack. If you have, usually you're going to have around like 2 or 3 Iron Crown EXs on your board, then Cobalt Command is doing an extra 40, 60, maybe even 80 extra damage if you're stacking up your Iron Crowns. And then if you add something like Future Booster Energy Capsule, which we'll get to in a little bit, then you're doing up to 100 extra damage with 4 Cobalt Commands and a Future Booster Energy Capsule. So Iron Crown really boosts the damage output of this deck to like unimaginable levels, and it's just so aggressive, and it's super impressive to see how much damage you can do turn 1. And it's like sometimes so devastating that your opponent has no way to respond. So it's been really cool to see how this works. We'll break down the rest of the deck, but I just want to say that Iron Crown is an incredibly awesome card. It's not really good for its attack or anything. It is just purely in here because of that Cobalt Command ability. It's so good. Next up, we're going to talk about our second Pokemon in here, and our main attacker, and that is Iron Hands EX. And if you guys know from previous videos, even my rant about why I think Iron Hands is a problem in the game, Iron Hands is broken. And like on paper it looks pretty bad, 160, 120, but that 160 with the addition of the extra 100 damage can easily become 260 damage with all the extra energy or extra damage buffs and stuff like that. So 260 is incredibly powerful for a simple 160 attack. And then amp you very much for 120. That can easily become 220 with the extra damage buffs. But amp you very much is allows you to take an extra prize card, which is the main focus of the deck, is you want to be able to accelerate energies onto your Iron Hand, and then use Amp You Very Much for up to 220 damage, and take an extra prize card each time you do. So if you knock out something like, for example, like a Raikou V or something like that, a smaller HP 2 prize basic or something like that, you get to take 3 prizes instead of 2. Or if it's just a regular Pokemon, you can take 2 prizes instead of 1, which really helps speed up the game, and it puts the ball in your court, and it really is so good in this format, especially heading into a new format where people are experimenting with smaller Pokemon, and we're trying to figure out what's going on, especially with the new ancient box decks, both the mill version and the single prize version. It's incredibly useful against ancient box decks, which are popping up everywhere on the meta right now, and it's also really good against Snorlax Stall, because once you set up your Iron Hands and stuff like that, and you get your future booster energy capsules on, you can eventually just kind of outpace, depending on how everything pans out, especially against Snorlax, which is a very tough matchup. You can potentially just speed up the game with Ampy very much so fast that there's not really much for your opponent to do to recover from it. So, and then it also has a really good, Iron Hands allows you to have a very good Lugia matchup. In fact, you eat Lugia for breakfast. It's so easy to beat Lugia. And it's pretty good in early game against Charizard, but it might struggle towards the end game. And that's something that this deck does really struggle with. But we'll kind of break that down if we get to that point. I'm not going to go over every single matchup because we'd be here for a very long time, and you'd just be looking at this Iron Hands EX art, which is amazing, by the way, but you'd be sitting here for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to do that, and you probably want to hear about the rest of the deck and what I have going on here. So let's continue. We do have, not Iron Crown, Mew EX, which is not as important, but is just the next card in this list. Which basically Mew EX is just in here for the restart ability, which allows us to draw cards until we have 3 cards in our hand. Since this deck is a turbo deck, it does require us to use most of the, if not all of the cards in our hand almost every single turn, meaning that the restart ability is really good for allowing us to just draw 3 and kind of reset a little bit for next turn. Good setup for next turn, or in case we're in a pinch and we really just need potential like combo unlocker. Restart is really great. And then genome hacking, it's a little tough to set up genome hacking. There is a way you can set it up in 1 turn, which we'll get to in a minute. But basically, we can copy something like Giratina V-Star, or we can copy Charizard EX. It's a very niche attack, but it's still pretty helpful. There's been a lot of Mimikyu stall lately on the ladder, for me at least, lately, so it's useful against the Mimikyu matchup, stuff like that, but it's mainly in here just for that restart ability. And also Free Retreat is pretty nice too. Next up we have Miraidon, which is also a brand new Temporal Forces card, and this Miraidon is probably the second most broken Miraidon card to date, which is not really saying much, I guess, because the rest of the Miraidon cards kind of suck. But Miraidon is a 110, which really wish it wasn't 110 HP dragon type, because Cramorant can knock it out, which is just really annoying. But anyways, Miraidon has 2 attacks. We're really only focusing on the first one, but the second one has a bit of use sometimes, and that is the Peak Acceleration attack for 40 damage for 1 energy, and energy acceleration, which is absolutely insanely overpowered. But Peak Acceleration allows you to search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to your future Pokemon in any way you like, and then you shuffle your deck. Now this is incredibly powerful because we can power up our Iron Hands with Peak Acceleration, and we can get a Hands moving as early as turn 2. That's usually the most optimal time for Hands to come out, because if you're going second, your opponent might start setting up a little bit and whatever, but then Iron Hands can hit the board and really slam into your opponent and really make it tough for them to recover from, kind of falling into a prize deficit. So Miraidon is also it's a decent attacker with Sparking Strike for 160, which, like we just talked about before, you can do up to 260 with all the damage buffs and stuff, which is a good number to hit with a single, it's an amazing number to hit with a single prizer. It's a little weird because there's no weakness to consider or anything like that, but overall, Miraidon is just a really great enabler and a really great energy accelerator. So it's, we're playing 2 copies of this in here just because it's really, really solid. Next up we have That can't... Is that all the Pokemon in here? Oh yeah, that's right. There's one more Pokemon. I was like, there's got to be one more. And that is Iron Bundle. Now, for those of you who aren't aware already, if you haven't seen the deck already, this is actually based off of Zapdos TCG's list, and it's almost the exact same. So, credit to Zapdos TCG. Big shout out to him. I'll link his deck profile in the description of this video to give credit. But there is only one card change that I made here, and that was adding Iron Bundle from Paradox Rift into here rather than playing a second Counter Catcher. And that is because we can search this out with one of our Pokemon search cards, and also it's not, since you have Iron Hands in the deck, you're most likely going to be ahead on prizes for most of the game anyways, so Counter Catcher isn't always that great, but Iron Bundle allows us to use the Hyper Blower ability, which allows us to switch out our opponent's Pokemon to the bench. It's basically like half an escape rope. So if your opponent's trying to stall with something big in the active spot, or there's just something undesirable, like you don't want to hit Iron Hands into that or something, if you don't want to hit it, then you can just Hyper Blower it out of the active spot and force your opponent to send something else up. And it can be really good, really great in some niche scenarios, especially in the early game. We're not using Refrigerated Stream in this game, or in this overall. It's good in like Lost Box now for if you want to use Refrigerated Stream for like the Charizard matchup or like really niche scenarios, but there's no water energy in here, so we're not focusing on that at all. Mainly we're just in here for the Hyper Blower, and if you can't get the Hyper Blower off, then it's just perfectly fine if you want to discard it or something later. But it's very helpful in a lot of different scenarios. So Iron Bundle was kind of just my little custom throw-in card because it's incredibly helpful in a lot of different scenarios and matchups. Looking at the rest of the deck, it's really turbo. It's super turbo. But let's break down the rest of the cards here. We have one copy of Counter Catcher. It's a gust effect for when we're behind on prizes, which is, like I said earlier, almost never. We have 4 copies of Electric Generator, and Generator is one of the most gambly sort of like risk-reward sort of cards in the game, and this is only in here for Iron Hands. We want to try and, if we can power up an Iron Hands as early as turn 1 with Generator, but it's very unlikely. Electric Generator allows us to attach potentially up to 2 basic energy cards to our benched electric type Pokemon in any way we like, but it doesn't happen all the time and it's not very reliable, so we just play 4 in here just in case we need to set up an Iron Hands in like 1 or 2 turns, and it really helps us do it reliably, somewhat reliably I'd say, because Generator is one of the most I guess one of the most irritating cards. If it works, then you feel great and you feel like relieved, but if it doesn't work, then you feel horrible. It's like a Pokestop, and you guys know how much I hate Pokestop. So Generator is just a really gambly card, and it's worth putting it in here, but it's also really risky to put in here as well. Next up, we are playing 1 copy of Lost Vacuum. This is really only for like problematic stadium cards, like problematic stadiums, or I guess really it's more importantly in here for like problematic tool cards. If your opponent has like an HP boosting tool card or something, you can get rid of it. It's not really that much useful outside of the basic sort of stuff. There's not really a niche point where it's going to be more helpful than just playing it on average. But one interaction I did see on Twitter, I don't remember who said it, but someone said that if you play Beach Court, you can actually shut down Iron Hands' interaction with what's it called? With Heavy Baton, right? Heavy Baton. But we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, if you for some reason the Beach Court is in play, then Lost Vacuum is probably a good play to put in or something like that. It's just very weird. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that, but Lost Vacuum is just a really good card in here because, I mean, getting rid of stadiums and tool cards is pretty awesome in this current metagame, especially when tool cards are becoming a lot more relevant and becoming a lot more useful in deck strategizing. Next up, we have 2 copies of Nest Ball. Nest Ball is really only in here for Mew EX, because everything else can be searched out with Techno Radar. We'll get to Techno Radar in just a second, but Nest Ball is just getting basics in play. We are playing 2 copies of Pokégear 3.0 to look at the top 7 cards of our deck and put a supporter card into our hand. So this is another one of those gambly cards, but it feels a lot more safe because it's 7 cards, and we play a decent amount of supporters in here. So we if Mew EX isn't gonna cut it sometimes or whatever, Pokégear is great because this deck relies on you hitting your supporters a lot of the time, since it really is turbo. Pokégear can be a really great lifesaver at some points in the game to keep that deck flowing and keep the strategy going. It's just a very helpful card overall, and I think it's a very important card in this list specifically. Just with the way that everything is run and stuff like that, it's just a very helpful card. Next up, we have Prime Catcher as our A spec. Now, it's an incredibly powerful A spec. I'm not playing Dowsing Machine as my A spec because Dowsing Machine honestly is just kind of junk. It's not really that helpful. But Prime Catcher allows us to switch in. It's basically Guzma. If you guys remember Guzma from back in the day, it basically allows you to switch. It's a switch effect for you, and it's a boss on one of your opponent's cards. But basically, we can use Prime Catcher at any point in the game for a free gust, which is incredibly powerful in this current day and age, especially in this meta, because we can gust up something like Pidgeot EX. If our opponent's playing Charizard Pidgeot, we can just Prime Catcher up the Pidgeot, and then we can just hit it with Ampy very much and get an easy free 3 prize cards. But Prime Catcher is very, very useful in so many different scenarios, and you can search it out with things like Arven, so it's incredibly overpowered, and I think it's just the best A spec overall to be playing in any deck, but this deck specifically really does benefit from Prime Catcher the most. Next up, we have 2 copies of Switch Cart. 30 damage is a lot in this current meta game. It can mean the difference between a knockout and just barely missing it. And it's also just a switch, so if our opponent is playing something like Snorlax, you can switch out something like an Iron Hands or something like that might not be able to retreat or something, and then you can just go ahead and start hitting with something new, or be able to sit behind something else while you try and figure out what to do. Switch Card is just a very good card. It's a switch out and it's a healing option, and 30 damage does mean a lot in this current game. So Switch Card is a very helpful card. Definitely would recommend playing at least 2 in your deck if you decide to play this. And then Techno Radar, like I was talking about earlier, Techno Radar is our way to get out future Pokemon, and it is basically a quick ball on steroids for future Pokemon. You can discard another card from your hand to search your deck for up to 2 future Pokemon, reveal them, and put them in your hand. Basically what you do after you do that is you go, usually you go for 2 Iron Crowns. If you're set up, you go for 2 Iron Crowns, or if it's early game, you go for Miraidon and Iron Crown, or you can get your Iron Hands. It's basically any future Pokemon you want, including Iron Bundle. So you can get any future Pokemon you want, you slap them down on the bench. Either they're going to boost your damage, they're going to be your main attacker, or they're going to be your energy accelerator, or it's going to be that little niche sort of scenario where you can kind of swap out one of your opponent's Pokemon, and it's just super, super helpful. So we're playing 4 of them in here because that is our main way to get Pokemon into play. And then our supporters, we are playing 4 copies of Arven. Arven is just the best supporter for this deck because it allows us to get item cards. This deck is very reliant on item cards, and it also allows us to get tool cards, which this deck is also very reliant on tool cards. So, we'll get to the tool cards in a minute, but Arven is just a really great way to set up a combo, and it's a very fun card to play. So I definitely would recommend, if you're not playing Arven for some crazy reason, Arven is the way to go with this deck. Please play some Arven because it is just so helpful and has won me so many games. Next up, we're playing 2 copies of Boss's Orders. Boss is just that way we can get whatever we want into the active spot. You guys know Boss at this point, so it's just really good for Ampy very much targets. Basically, it's just there for what it is at face value. So yeah, next up is we are playing 2 copies of Iono. We're not playing any more than 2 because especially once we get into like later game and we've AMP very much, maybe once or twice, we're going to be very low on prizes, and we don't really want to put our hand down to like 1 or 2 cards. So Iono is just here mainly to disrupt our opponent and maybe set them back a little bit, especially in like Lost Box matchups, which you're already probably going to win anyways. But it's just very good in some niche matchups. Or in some like scenarios. I know I keep saying niche a lot, but Iono is just a very great supporter for multiple reasons, and I think that yeah, Iono is just a really great card in general. Not really much else to say about her. And then we have 3 copies of Professor's Research, discard our hand and draw 7. Just really good for resetting like a very low hand, like we were talking about earlier. This deck can really get down to like 1, 2 or 0 cards in your hand, and you kind of feel like, oh crap, there's nothing else I can do. Oh wait, now I have research, I get 7 new cards. That's 7 new opportunities to set up a combo or be able to just take advantage of the situation. So research is just really good in here as a good reset to your hand. Not restart like Mew EX, but just reset in general. And then for our tool cards, we are not playing any stadiums, by the way, so I will not be talking about any stadiums. And that is Future Booster Energy Capsule. The future Pokemon this card is attached to has 1 no retreat cost, which is very helpful for Iron Hands. In case like your opponent tries to stall with in Iron Hands or really anything, if they try and stall anything, you just go Future Booster Energy Capsule. Whoops, I'm out of here. I'm retreating for free. And you also get to do 20 more damage, which, like we talked about earlier, boosts your damage output to up to 100 damage more, which is incredibly overpowered. And it's just a very great card in general because it stacks your damage and is a great retreat option. So not really much else to say because it's just simple and it's very easy to understand, but it's a very helpful card for basically everything except Mew EX in this deck. And then finally, Heavy Baton is a new tool card from Temporal Forces, which says if the Pokemon this card is attached to has a retreat cost of exactly 4, so in other words, only Iron Hands, and it's in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you may move up to 3 basic energy cards from that Pokemon to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. So basically, if you're knocked out by a big like revenge attack by like Charizard EX or something, and you had like no other energies in play or whatever, and you had an Iron Hands going, you can just move 3 of those energies onto a new Iron Hands or a new attacker, and then just kind of restart from there. Instead of having to like try and slowly re-accelerate your energies, Heavy Baton allows you to transfer all that energy onto someone else, and it's a very helpful card. Now, the fact that you only play 2 sometimes means you don't get them when you want them, which can be really annoying, and it's happened quite a bit when I've played this deck. I've played around around 30 games in PTCG Live, and then probably around a dozen games in real life. So I've played a decent amount of this deck, I will say, and I actually have like a 73% win rate with this deck, but I think overall, Heavy Baton, it's a great card if you can get it, but if you can't, then it becomes a kind of bad card to draw into or whatever, especially if it's at the wrong time. But it's just a really great card in general, and it's definitely worth playing in here. And then finally, we're playing 13 Electric Energies. That is a lot of energies to play, but it's just really great to get our Iron Hands, mainly our Iron Hand setup, and then also 1 copy of Psychic Energy because both Miraidon and Iron Crown can use that Psychic Energy because Twin Shuttle, I don't know how you say that, can be a really good snipe option. And yeah, I think that really wraps up the deck profile. So let's head into some games because this deck is a lot of fun to play, and I think it just has great matchups overall against everything. Alright, heading into our first game here with the Future Box, we are going against an Ultra Ball rank player. Alright, jeez, game, this is a ridiculous matchup here. I mean, not really the skill level, because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty skilled at this game. Opponent wins the coin flip, so we really want to go second with this deck. If we go first, then we're in a very, very bad spot. But I've actually recorded this entire video. Okay, cool, we're going second. I recorded this entire video the other night, and I messed up something with the recording software, and it didn't actually record anything. So, and of course I had to take 2 mulligans. Great. And we're starting with Iron Crown. Yikes. Okay, well, I mean, this is a pretty decent hand. I could have used the Future Booster. It's a Mimikyu. So, I mean, we talked about Mimikyu earlier. We actually can get rid of the Mimikyu. Oh, this is a stall matchup. This is a stall matchup. Hold on. We could be in a little bit of trouble.
I have a question. For God. Why?
I think if we take out the Mimikyu, then we'll be good. We can go Iron Crown. We can go Arven probably for... Yeah, that's our best bet here. We're going to go Arven for Techno Radar and for Future Booster. We're probably going to just pitch the Heavy Baton. I don't see it being used at all in this game. We go for our Miraidon and our Iron Hands. We go boom. We go boom. I'm going to save the Prime Catcher because I don't think I can actually take a knockout on this Rotom right away. I'm going to go Nest Ball. Probably Mew might actually be interesting to try and set up here. Since we are going to be using almost every card in our hand, I think Mew might actually be interesting to play here. Let's go Future Booster. Let's attach our energy. We can restart for 1. We have Prime Catcher in hand. Now, our opponent could be doing something really irritating with, like, Airy or something. But then we can just restart again. So let's just go Peak Acceleration, knock out this annoying Mimikyu, and, yeah, we'll just attach 2 energies to our Iron Hands, which is going to be just our best attacker in this matchup. So, knock out the Mimikyu, it's gone. So, like I was saying before, I was recording before, and I had like a 7-game win streak heading into it. Actually, it turned into an 8-game win streak, but then I lost it to an inactive opponent halfway through recording, and it really annoyed me. I'm on like a 2 or 3 game win streak with this right now. Sorry, very difficult to speak right now for some reason. Oh, is this Pidgey? Is this the Pidgeylacks version? Because if it is, then we just like win against this, right? Okay, well, this is probably Snorlax. If they don't if they don't have an Airy, no, it's a Noivern version. I don't remember what Noivern EX does, but we can actually just Prime Catcher. Maybe this isn't Blocklax. If it isn't, then thank goodness for my mental well-being. Thank goodness. But I think the Rotom is really tempting. I really want to take out this Rotom. But I also know that we probably want to take out the Noibat before they set it up, because I don't remember what it does. And then we can target the Rotom later. Like, at this point in the game, if we can just keep them 1 turn behind every single time, then that's probably for the best. If they don't do what I think they're gonna do, then we just knock out the Rotom. Hero's Cape. Okay, so this is like... Okay, well that's fine. That's fine. We just have Prime Catcher, or we have Switch Cart. 170 HP Noibat. So they're really trying to set up a Noivern here. I think we actually can knock this out, though. Yeah, no, you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to get rid of this Noibat right away. I am not going to let them... Yeah. Nope, get up here. We're putting up this because we actually can amp you very much, potentially. I'm not going to put down the other hands. I'm just going to research. So here's the plan. Generator is the card we needed. We did get an energy. I don't think we can knock it out right now, though. And we have just a lot of dead cards in our hand, really. So let's retreat. Yeah, amp you very much is just 10 damage short. So we'll just go ahead and arm press. Knock out the Noibat. Now their A-Spec is gone immediately. And now they're starting from scratch again. So, very weird. Not gonna lie, I don't see a way for them to win. So really annoying that we couldn't get another crown to be able to take 2 prizes, but I don't think that they can win anymore. I'll just boss anything. Crushing Hammer. I don't care. I have so many energies. I have so many energies that there's just no way that they can Crushing Hammer everything. Plus, I only need 2 or 3 in order to be able to do anything, so... Oh no, there's the Airy, like I expected, but it was on the wrong turn. Bye-bye! Just too much for them. They couldn't handle it. So, look at that. We destroyed a Noivern EX deck, and that's kind of how this deck goes. It's like, once you set up against even, like, evolution-focused decks, you absolutely bludgeon them. Like, there is no stopping you. Hey, we're in the Charizard League. That's nice. Alright, heading into the next game here. That was a big win. Kinda. I guess it wasn't that impressive. We just set up and then beat Stick, Iron Hands. We were facing a lot of higher ranked opponents. I don't know why, but alright. I mean, higher ranked means more impressive wins, right? So, our opponent's calling the coin flip. I suspect they might be playing Origin Form Dialga, which would be a very weird matchup. They win the coin flip, probably, yeah. And they're probably gonna go second, just with my luck when I'm recording. Yep. See, it's like I have it all down to a T at this point. Oh, goody. A perfect hand that has to be mulliganed. We get a terrible hand for going first. And, yeah, wouldn't you know it, it is Dialga. We have a horrible hand. This is awful. Like, seriously terrible. So, yeah, it is Dialga. I was completely right on everything. Generator doesn't do anything, so we're gonna have to pass. Oh, I should probably attach an energy. That's my bad. I should have just attached an energy, because we have 3 in our hand. So, Arven gets us... We're gonna slow start this, basically. Basculin, yep, so this is definitely Dialga. Magnetic Lift, search your deck for a card, and then put the card on top, or just... Oh, yeah, no, Gather the Crew is way better here. Because now they can get their Dialga, and they can get a, another, yeah, Beldum. See, like, I know exactly what they're gonna do. So I think another Iron Crown, that's nice. We can go Arven, probably for a Techno Radar and a Future Booster, so that way we can retreat. Let's go Techno Radar and discard an Energy. Yeah, that's probably right. And we can go get our Miraidon and an Iron Hands. We'll go place down the Miraidon, place down the Iron Hands, Future Booster Energy Capsule. We can also go Electric Generator while we're at it. Ooh, we get 2, which is really great. Now, we're not going to be able to amp you very much this turn, which is unfortunate. But what we can do is we can retreat into this. And now we do get the knockout with Peak Acceleration, which is great. We are in a very good spot. And we are just going to attach 2 more to the Iron Hands. So, looking really good. There we go. We're going to take a prize card, take the lead. We also have a 1 prizer in the active spot. So if they somehow do get this Dialga set up, then we could be good if they try and do their... whatever, if they try and use their V-Star power right away. What does Metal Maker do? Top 4 cards. Oof. That's just terrible. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to use, okay, there's the V-Star, so they're knocking this thing out, right? Yeah, it's super annoying. But I think we actually can potentially knock out... let's go with this. No, we're doing 260. We can't knock out, ooh, Bundle is great. I actually think we should go Iron Bundle, because then we can set up with Arven some more. So, I think we go Arven. We go and get ourselves a Techno Radar, and we go get ourselves a Heavy Baton. Yeah. Set up on other hands. I want to keep the Pokégear in hand, honestly. I think we go Techno Radar the boss. 4-3. 2-1. Well, hold on. If we keep the boss, you know what? I want to kind of keep the boss here. Not gonna lie. I think we just pitch the Pokégear. And we can go for another Iron Crown and for an Iron Hands. Yeah, I think that's fine. We go Iron Crown. We go another Iron Hands. We attach the Heavy Baton here. We attach our energy here. We go Iron Bundle. See, this is where, like, Mew would be great. We can go Hyper Blower. Force them to put up one of their Pokemon. I'm going to guess they're putting up the Beldum. Yep. Now we retreat. And now we can just go Amp You very much for 180. Perfect. So yeah, I know I'm going through the motions very quickly here. Yeah, Prime Catcher is great. I love to see that. I think we could have kept that Pokégear, to be honest. But with the way that we're set up here, we're just looking really good. They could screw us up with if they're able to somehow get... Oh, they got no energies. Okay, so we're good. There's no Star Chronos. There's no way to one-shot this Iron Hands here. I just don't see a way for them to win. If we just hit this, yeah, if we just hit this and we go down, we don't really care. An Ultra Ball. Okay, so wait a minute. Could we just potentially win by just consistently knocking out one prizers? Oh, well. Wait, we win. Wait a minute, we win. Oh no, I'm gonna feel so bad, but also so good at the same time. Defiance Band doesn't knock Iron Hands out, and even if it did, it doesn't matter. I just go Prime Catcher. Yeah, that's not knocking out, buddy. Sorry to say, but you just lose the game, I think. I think Boss gets us the knockout here. Yep, Amp You very much exactly knocks out Mew EX, and we take the last 3 prizes, and look at that. Very, very easy win. Once again, this deck is just so broken. It's so easy to win with this deck. Like, even if we are forced to go first, and we have the worst starts possible, we just destroy our opponents. And it's just a very great turbo deck, and I think that we really showed off everything in this that this deck really has to offer. Like the core strategy, we didn't show off a couple niche cards, but we didn't really need to. So I think we're actually just gonna wrap it up there on a high note. Partially because I am scared that I will lose the winning streak here while recording, which is not a great feeling. But I think ultimately it just was the perfect 2 games to show off why this deck is so good and why I think it is one of my top 3 decks in this format. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Sorry if this seems cowardly or anything like that, but I think that was just a perfect way to represent what this deck is able to do. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this deck in the comments. I'd really love to hear your thoughts and if there's any improvements you might make to this deck. But yeah, I'm gonna just wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, God bless, have fun, we'll see you out there, and we'll see you next time. Thank you all so much for watching.